Yes, guys. Hello. Welcome back to SpursRelated's YouTube channel. Hope everyone is doing very well today. Today, it's more Morgan Gibbs-White talk. It's more drama. Has the deal fallen through? What is going on? We're going to give you all the latest updates from all the journalists around town. And I am joined alongside not Thomas Frank's AI buddy, but Sam Spurs Undercover. It was great last week on the show. You guys loved him. So we got him back on. Sam, how you doing, mate?
I'm very well, thank you. Other than this whole saga going on, I'm trying to keep sane with all the conflicting reports. What about you?
Yeah, honestly, there's a lot of crossover, a lot of different information coming out. We're going to break it down. We're going to try and almost find a conclusion as to what is going on. I'm also scared that there's going to be a few of these Forest fans coming back at me after I said it's 100% happening, because I tell you what, my 100% has turned into 60, 70% now. It's getting lower by the day. I'm starting to lose hope on these odds. I mean, here Fahim saying, "What are the odds?" Honestly, what are the odds? Who knows? And where's my king, Frank Thomas? He'll be back. He's not available today. He's actually a little bit under the weather, but he'll be back soon. Lord Rodney Trotter's in here saying, "COYS, big up yourself, mate." Luke's in here saying hello, and I'm sure lots more will join and comment throughout. And guys, the support's been brilliant. Keep smashing that like button. Keep subscribing to Spurs Related. We're bringing you daily live streams and videos. But let's get into the latest, shall we, Sam? Because let's try and digest this, because I feel like this could take half an hour just digesting this news, Um, as explained, a lot's come out in the last few last few hours and the last 24 hours since we last went live. Is there a risk that this is going to fall through? Well, according to Sky Sports News, Nottingham Forest are determined to keep Gibbs-White, but yet to lodge the formal complaint to the Premier League. So obviously yesterday we were talking about how the legal action started, but the actual complaint to the Premier League, according to most sources, hasn't even started yet. And Sky Sports can reveal that Forest have been trying for almost a year to open negotiations with Gibbs-White over a new and improved contract at Nottingham Forest, but he chose not to engage in those talks, which is interesting. That, to me, Sam, suggests the player wants to move away and he's not interested in staying at Nottingham Forest, which is good news for us, of course, really good news for us. But the article then goes on to say Sky Sports has been told Forest owner Marinakis is prepared to lose significant sums of money to defend his position, that Spurs made an alleged illegal approach for one of his side's best players, and that there has been a breach of confidentiality in Tottenham, seemingly being aware of the value of Gibbs-White's buyout clause. Sam, before we continue, just breaking this down slightly, there's two questions here. Like, how can that be an illegal, knowing a release clause that's meant to be confidential is the issue here. But at the end of the day, there's also been talks, and we'll come on to it, that Spurs could have solved this by bidding more than £60 million. They essentially don't want to lose one of their most valuable assets for just £60 million. They see that as undervalued. For me, it's pretty spot on. I reckon he's probably worth about £60 million. But do you think they can really get more out of us than that £60 million price mark?
Not, I wouldn't have thought a significant amount. I think reading those two sort of posts you put up, the first one saying there's two phrases that I picked up on. So it says in the first line, they're determined to keep Morgan Gibbs-White, right? And it's like, well, of course they are. You know what I mean? It's kind of, why would you want? It's like us last year or the year before when Harry Kane was leaving. It's like we didn't want to sell him. You know what I mean? Unless we were going to get big money for him. So they're obviously doing everything they can to say that, like, they're gonna keep him. But ultimately, for me, I'm kind of in the same boat with you. So if you're mudded, I'm mudded, bro. About the fact that it will happen. I do think it will happen. Look, maybe it might take the whole transfer window. But if we get him over the line, then I don't think people will complain, as long as we keep doing other deals in the background while this is kind of festering. The other phrase that I picked up on was significant sums of money, right? So I'm reading that saying, I think that basically says that he's going to spend a load of money on his legal defense. And to me, reading into that, and maybe I've got my my Spurs cap on, that to me says that he's not super. He doesn't think he's got the best case, maybe. So he's thinking, I'm going to have to spend a lot of money to get the best lawyers to argue the case. So in a way that makes it more favorable to me. So I see that as potentially, a position of weakness that he's come out or that's been leaked, that he's saying, I'll spend loads of money on the legal, because if you had a strong case, then obviously you're going to get a good lawyer. Don't get me wrong. But to be willing to, lose a lot of money on your lawyer fees and the whole saga, then there must be some fear there that they haven't really got a leg to stand on, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, 100%. Or you could argue that the reason why they're really pushing it is they feel like there's essentially sort of what you're saying there. There's some more value to sort of get out of this, draw some more blood out of the stone and try and get 70, 80 million. And there's another article coming up that sort of suggests maybe that Spurs, the board, could regret not going in higher to begin with. It also says that it's possible that Spurs, like I said, just make an increased offer above the level reported, the buyout clause, to try to appease Forest and reopen lines of communication. But there are no indications Tottenham are prepared to do that. And it's far from clear whether that would work with Marinakis currently resolute in his position. And so I've also heard that there's no talks between Forest and Spurs. It's all gone quiet on the Western. So, I mean, it's sort of worrying, but also, another day, it's just always carnage at Tottenham, isn't it? I'm going to get through some of the chat. Guys, the numbers are building, almost at 100 views live. Really appreciate all the support lately. Keep supporting the channel. Max is in here. Big up, Max. He says, it will happen. Just hope we don't waste the whole transfer window trying to get this across the line, as we need more recruitment. That's kind of what you were saying, Sam, in terms of hope it doesn't sort of distract us from making more signings, especially at number 6, especially potentially a backup left back and potentially another forward if we feel need be,
Yeah, look, 100%. I mean, that was what I was saying. It's like, I'm okay for them to kind of shelve this for the moment, while everything kind of bubbles in the background. And then if they can go and, I'm not saying I want us to go out and sign Adam Wharton for 100 million, although don't get me wrong, I'd love that, right? But to go and do some deals, like you say, get us a player like Anthony Robinson from Fulham, maybe as your backup left back. Get us one of Douglas Luiz or Palhinha. I haven't seen enough of the Palmeiras centre mid really to give Richard Rios to give a fair critique of the players. So those two I've seen, obviously a lot of them, and I think personally out of the two, I'd probably want Douglas Luiz, just because I feel like he was such a hot prospect when he was in the Premier League a couple of years ago, or even a year ago. And I've seen people saying, he was up there with some of the best in his position in the league those last couple of years at Villa. So he's someone I would be looking at. And again, I see all this stuff about Ekitike now. I'm not saying that we should go in and try and outbid Liverpool and Newcastle, but there are moves to be done. And I think that if we can put this to one side, knowing that there is still quite a strong possibility of it happening, and go and sign other players to strengthen the squad. And I mean, I don't know if you saw that video of Thomas Frank talking to Kudus while he was on the table. I saw someone post, like, the grin on his face was literally from ear to ear, and the caption was like, he knows we're in for an all-timer window. It's like, I really hope so.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, Frank looks absolutely buzzing to be there, doesn't he? It's a bit like when Ange joined, though. How fresh and he looked when he joined, and then like a year later he looks absolutely 10 years older. A bit like Mourinho as well, when he came in with that what was it, comfy duvet comment when he came in on that first press conference, and then 6 months into Mourinho he looked like an ill man. It's what Tottenham does to you, unfortunately. But user saying, hot take, we should keep Bissouma. He's an elite squad rotation player. I really don't understand the urgency to get rid of him. He had some great games last season. I agree with the last point. He definitely had some great games, especially in the end of the Europa League campaign. Almost a key figure in that. But Sam, what do you make of this one? And then we'll go back to the Morgan Gibbs-White stuff.
So I think that I wouldn't say he's necessarily an elite squad rotation. I think he's a good squad rotation, don't get me wrong, but I think that elite squad rotation is just like the step above Bissouma in terms of the fact that his consistency just isn't there.
Yeah.
which is sort of emphasized in the last 4 or 5 words of this. Some great games, right? You look at it and say, if he was consistently performing at a 7, then he'd be here anyway. No one would be arguing that we should sell him. But he also mentions, the user also mentions the quote unquote urgency to get rid of him. And Bissouma's now been here for 3 years. So if you haven't figured out if he's the player for you after 3 years, then I'm not really sure when is the right time to sell him, because I pretty much make this point on every podcast that I do. But Spurs fans always argue about, and myself as well, about not selling players at the right time. And if winning the Europa League and performing very well in the final and the 2 build-up games before the final is not enough to get his his value to the highest point it has been probably since we signed him, then I'm not really sure what we're supposed to do. If we kept Bissouma, I wouldn't cry, but I think that it would be smart business to move him on.
Yeah, no, I agree, especially with only 1 year left on his deal. Cash him while you can, or you could potentially see him on a free, unless they're planning long term, and maybe he's going to be part of Frank's plans, and then maybe a contract comes in. But let's see how that one plays out. Good comment, guys. Keep these sort of debate comments coming in about players, because although I can bring up every single comment, we've got to go with the ones that are causing debates and talking points. So keep them coming in. I like those kind of ones. Drewler's in here saying, "COYS, big up yourself." Or Ogala saying, "It seems so. Hope you're doing well." Bye-bye says Rodney. I think that was to do with, I can't actually bring up the comment. There's a couple of explicits in there, but essentially no D-Eds policy with Thomas Frank. So maybe, that could be argued why Bissouma could be out the door. Going back to the Morgan Gibbs-White stuff though, Sam. Obviously we talked about the Nottingham Forest being determined to keep Gibbs-White, and that they're yet to form that formal complaint to the Premier League. Obviously we've talked about, like you just highlighted, the prepared to lose significant sums of money to defend that position. But what does the current contract situation mean? Well, from Forest's point of view, Gibbs-White's refusal to discuss a new contract shows he doesn't have a long-term commitment to Forest. That's all good news for us. Concerning his current contract legally, there is a conflict between the rights of the employer and those of the employee. Forest have a contractual agreement for the terms of Gibbs-White's contract, specifically the level of his release clause, to be kept confidential. So if that has been breached, they do have a legal case. Sam, reading in this to us a bit further, I mean, obviously we spoke backstage, and the sort of the growing sort of concern, and I guess not concern, but like the mixed messages coming out from different types of reports. What do you make on this page, in the sense that, if there has been a breach, they do have a case, or do you just not believe it? I mean, we can't believe everything we read, right?
I think that this is kind of like a typical, obviously it's a unique situation, but it's like a typical transfer window rumor about something that's going on, where this article basically says that every side of the argument has a leg to stand on. So it's kind of covering all points. Like, some of the stuff that I've read is that Gibbs-White doesn't want to leave Forest on bad terms. Like, who knows whether that's true or not. But in terms of seeing a player actually have respect for their previous club, like, as much as it's funny, this whole Kudus stuff, it is putting Gibbs-White in a slightly higher mentality bracket for me, that he's, as much as he wants to leave the club, he doesn't want to do it on bad terms, and potentially won't force through the transfer, which obviously is not great for us. But I don't know, I think it's interesting that we've seen over the last few days, maybe even the last week or so since this was announced, that Forest have put in their complaints. So it's, the last day or so, when all these rumors are coming out saying they're yet to put the complaint in, so I wonder what the weight is for that, right? Because sure, I mean, unless they're literally just doing it because they're trying to drag this out for as long as possible, hoping that someone else comes in now that the kind of release clause is out there, and they can kind of do a bidding war or whatever. which I still don't think will happen because, as I said, there's a release clause. So ultimately, it will just come down to whether Gibbs-White wants to go to Spurs or whoever the potential suitor may be.
Yeah.
But the fact that they haven't put it in yet also could speak to the fact that, as I said before, they don't have the strongest legal case yet. As much as there might be the basis of a case, they might not have, in terms of sufficient evidence, and they might need to actually find the specific rulings in the Premier League rule book, basically, or the FA rule book, to how it works with contract negotiations in situations like this. So maybe there's just a lot of background they need to do to build their case up, so that they're waiting to make it airtight in their eyes.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah, 100%, 100%. It's every time I think of the different avenues where this could go, it is a concern, but I am still confident. I am still confident. I've also got an Arsenal fan in the chat. I thought I'd bring this one. Hi lads. The problem is you hit the release clause on the nose, the exact amount before any says others have done similar. All contracts are different. Fair point, mate. Fair point. First time in your chat, go easy on me. We'll go easy on you. As much as I hate your club, I really hate your club. Everyone is welcome here at SpursRelated, believe it or not.
Can I just reply to that comment quickly as well?
Go on, what's that?
Can you just get it? Because I forgot exactly what it was that he said. Let me just find it.
From the Arsenal
Vindaloo, yeah. So we said earlier about you were saying 60 million. If you pardon the pun, is kind of bang on the money, right? In terms of what you felt that Gibbs-White is valued. So you're seeing players of a similar position, nationality and age profile as well, going from between 55 and 75 million. I feel like that's kind of the bracket that these players in. So to bid 60 is like the lower end of the average between the two, right? So I mean, that kind of does, I know that maybe I'm just clutching at straws, but maybe it does kind of speak to that they were just thinking this is a good number to bid for him, and potentially would have gone up to 65 had there not been a release clause. But I don't know the ins and outs. I'm just looking at it any angle I can find.
Yeah, again, it's all about the different angles, Sam. All about how you look at it and how this could go. Jason on Facebook saying, "Hi, hope you're well. Doing well, thank you very much. Hope you're good too." He said, "Really worried about this transfer. Do you think Spurs will get this done eventually? Starting to lose faith in the Gibbs-White transfer and feel like he'd be a fantastic addition." It's a difficult one, isn't it, Sam? Because it's like I sat here yesterday and I literally said like, "There's no way it doesn't happen," and I've started to get a little bit less confident. But although I'm still fairly confident, I stand on my laurels, kind of thing. There is that sort of element where it's like a bit uncertain, and I've already thought about how he's going to fit in. I've already thought about the different systems Frank can play with Morgan Gibbs-White. Suddenly in my head, I'm doing a bit of a reversal. Are you feeling the same, or are you still feeling confident?
Well, I don't remember if I read it or if I was watching a podcast the other day where it was mentioned. He got 11 yellow cards last season, apparently, which suggests that he's willing to get stuck in, right? It also suggests he's not the best challenger. But it does suggest that potentially Frank could work on his defensive game to turn him more into a box-to-box if needed, rather than that out-and-out attacking mid. So, yeah, I mean, it is interesting. Like I've said from the beginning, I don't necessarily think that Morgan Gibbs-White is a player we need. But I have said also he's the kind of player that if you can get him in, then you should get him in, because he raises the ceiling of the squad. If he's starting or he's not starting, him and Maddison and Kulusevski, you've got a very good option off the bench either way.
I know what you're saying. Like, you could argue that position isn't the most needed, but the more I've thought about it, the more I think it makes perfect sense, because in the Thomas Frank system, when you're essentially either playing the double pivot or potentially the two attacking midfield players, he can fit into the attacking midfield position almost next to a Maddison, and then you get that deep lying six to mop up. Or he can play in the double pivot, sitting alongside a Bergvall or alongside a Bentancur, and can do both. Like, he'll be the one with more freedom to go forwards, and then the natural, more defensive player, maybe the Bentancur, can sit back. So the more I think about it, the more it's great, because I mean, he is a fantastic player linked with all the top clubs. Let's be honest, Man City were after him literally the week before we'd apparently Here We Go'd it. I don't know how Fabrizio's feeling about potentially being in the mud on a Here We Go, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Just to pick this up a little bit further, though, Sam. So what's next is what's being said in this article. The result is that it's currently a stalemate. We know that. And if he wants to join Tottenham, and a lot of reports have said that Gibbs-White wants Tottenham, like let's not get that bit wrong as well. Like, the clubs are arguing over what's happening in terms of money. But Gibbs-White, although we can't prove he said he wants Tottenham, a lot of reports have said that Gibbs-White wants Spurs, right, Sam? So
yes,
that's a positive. That is a positive that will reassure Spurs fans. He could go on strike or put in a formal transfer request. There is no indication that he is prepared to do that currently. And in fact, he returned to preseason training, as we know. Contrary to some social media reports, he was at training again on Tuesdays today. Again, I've seen pictures that he was there again today, but some are saying that he wasn't. Again, don't think that bit is that important, He turned up yesterday when we thought it had all gone through. So Sky Sports has been told that Tottenham have no current plans to do anything at this stage, but they certainly haven't given up their attempt to sign Gibbs-White. It's clear they feel they've done nothing wrong and nothing different from what most clubs do when they're considering a transfer offer for a player. That's the thing. It's not like we've done something out of the blue here and out of the ordinary. It's like we've bid on a player. We found out his release clause. That's the point. It's like it's a secret release clause. It's new to me. I'm sure it's new to a lot of people that is a breach. Anything to pick up on this piece, Sam?
Well, it's just interesting that, it's kind of similar in terms of Spurs are involved, even though it's not really their fault. They're obviously the beneficiary of someone else's, shadiness, let's say. In terms of the Manos Solomon deal from Shakhtar to Spurs, right? And then you had Shakhtar basically saying that Spurs owed them this money, even though we legally bought him, or basically took him on a free from that because of the war. And I know that as a Ukrainian Shakhtar fan or as a Nottingham Forest fan, you're going to be thinking, well, F Spurs. These are our players. We deserve some sort of compensation, which is obviously how Marinakis is seeing it. But I think that, I don't know, us being taken to court, how can they prove? It's not. We could pry to see if there was a release clause, right? But ultimately, that NDA was not signed by Spurs, so it's down to me. It's down to Morgan Gibbs-White and the agents, because, as I said, we can't force someone to tell us this secret. The secret was obviously divulged to us, so ultimately, I think that will probably be what Spurs' stance on the matter is. Trying to basically distance themselves from having any specific power in the deal other than the financial power to meet the release clause.
Yeah, no, completely makes sense, mate. Completely agree. And Scott's getting in here and saying, Scott's been in all the lives. I believe he's a Forest fan, saying, don't get the hate on Marinakis. He's trying to protect his asset, which you can understand to an extent, of course. We'd feel a bit similar, like a bit touchy if it was, when Harry Kane, was leaving, for example. Can't see someone wasting money on lawyers if everything was above board. And that's the thing. Like, there is obviously a point there. There is obviously a point where, they may have a case. I'll be honest, I'm still a little bit unclear on it. I think a lot of people will feel the same. Here's another article, Sam. This is, I think, courtesy of the Spurs web. It says, however, Alistair Gold states that Nuno Espirito Santo's men are refusing to even speak to Tottenham. A new offer appears out of the picture at the moment, and it has been claimed by the Daily Mail that Forest initially tried to resolve the Gibbs-White issue amicably with Tottenham before deciding to launch a legal battle against their Premier League rivals. Perhaps Daniel Levy, this is the key point, perhaps Daniel Levy and the Spurs hierarchy may regret not reaching a compromise with Forest. Now they appear to be desperate to do all they can to stop the player from moving to N17. Essentially, again, this links to, should Spurs have initially bid more than that secret release clause? Are we essentially sort of taking the mick here a bit and finding out that a secret release clause is perhaps slightly below the value that Gibbs-White should be. Some would argue that he should be 70 million, especially with the English tax that goes with that as well. The fact that he's coming from a Premier League club, he's a very, very good player. You know, you could see Man City would have probably bid a 70, 80 million and not blinked an eyelid, you know? So that is also interesting here, don't you think?
Yeah, I'm trying to like digest it because I actually haven't read that one before. So it's interesting the use of the word like amicably, right? Because what does that look like for both sides, right? Amicably for them might mean they want 65 million or even more, right? They're saying give us another 5 million and you can have it, and we'll avoid all this legal drama. But that doesn't suit us, right? They want 60 million is the deal they want to do. And maybe potentially they were willing to go slightly higher. This is all stuff that we're speculating, right? There's been no official announcement of any of this stuff. And maybe we might never find out. I'm sure that we will. But maybe there was no compromise that was met between the two clubs. We were willing to offer slightly more than the release clause, and they wanted, in our opinion, too much, where it's, the negotiation turned sour, and then obviously both teams have kind of retreated with their tails between their legs, knowing they're in for a fight.
Yeah, exactly that. Very, very interesting. I don't know. Like you said, we may not ever hear about what the actual first bid was. Perhaps there's already been a second bid and we don't know about that. Let's be honest, some of the journalists don't always get it spot on. The fact that Fabrizio's put his neck on the line, says, here we go. It still sort of holds some value, but I don't know. There's definitely a big update to come, guys. 100% a big update to come within the next 24 hours on this case. You can 100%, assume that, right, Sam? We're expecting a big update to come, whether that's progress or whether the Forest are back down on the legal action or whether they've submitted to the Premier League, because they haven't even done that bit yet. All very interesting stuff. Stick around on SpursRelated to find out exactly when that happens. We'll be going live again tomorrow evening, a little bit later on, actually. This will be with Oso Spurs. So, guys, 220 of you watching live now. Really, really massively appreciate the support. Thank you so much. Hit the like button. There's only 25 likes on this video. I want to see it at 100 before we go offline. And keep subscribing as well and smashing those notification bells on so you never miss us going live or never miss a video. All 4 things are free to do so. My maths is bad. All 3 things are free to do so. Couple more bits. Interesting one that obviously we talked a lot about the legal side of things, but Forest have made a move for a Morgan Gibbs-White replacement, which again is good news for us. Thiago Almada is the link here, and apparently he's going to Atletico Madrid. That's kind of progressed quite a lot in the last 24 hours. So perhaps it's not Thiago Almada, but I've heard things about Jacob Ramsey, who we were actually also linked with. So they've also approached Jacob Ramsey for around, I think, a 30-40 million pounds fee. So interesting that suddenly Forest are linked with those number 10s. That can only be a good thing for us, that they're panicking and trying to find a replacement. So again, good news for us. And as Scott's just confirmed there, again, linked with Jacob Ramsey. But according to Ojogo, Nuno's men have made an approach to sign Botafogo attacking midfielder Thiago Almada. I actually know quite a bit about this guy. He used to play at Atlanta in the MLS and then got sold to Botafogo, and they have a link to Lyon, and he went on loan to Lyon last season and did fairly all right. He's an exciting player. He's played for Argentina a number of times. I think Messi's actually said some good words about him. So, it doesn't go amiss when the great man himself hypes up a player. It looks like he's going to Atletico Madrid, as I said, but Sam, good news that they're almost panicking and looking for a number 10, right?
Yeah, look, definitely, and maybe I'm a little bit confused at the level of player they're looking at, right? And that's no disrespect to Almada or to Jacob Ramsey, but both of them being 24 years old, which I think is basically the same age as Gibbs-White. I think he's 25, Gibbs-White. Gibbs-White is a he's played in the Prem for 2 years now, like consistently being a solid performer for Nottingham Forest. Whereas, Jacob Ramsey at basically the same age, and this is kind of one of the reasons I didn't want to sign him personally, was that he just, to speak to that Scott saying about consistency, like Jacob Ramsey's never really shown any consistency. I don't remember him ever really getting significant numbers. He's quite injury prone. And then Almada, I've never really seen him play, so I can't say anything really about him. But to go from the MLS to Botafogo is not really a huge jump, right? I mean, maybe the football in the league is better for Botafogo, but in terms of actually, you'd think that like at 24, you might have got a call to Spain or like Portugal or something. A lot of these Argentinian players, they make their way through the Spanish leagues. So it's interesting that they're going for this kind of player to replace effectively a talismanic figure in their squad. I find that a bit odd.
Yeah, absolutely. Screaming that they're panicking. Good point about the MLS perhaps being sort of on a similar level to Brazil. I think he did well in Liga for Lyon. Obviously, we know what's happened with them. Apparently, the relegation isn't even going to happen now. So, not too sure how that links with Almada, but apparently, Atletico Madrid. So, watch this space. Simeone keen on the player. Can see that very much happening. Lads, all said though, don't you think you need a defensive mid? Last point, Sam, and then we'll give your Twitter a little plug. But guys, before we go on to the defensive mid chat, just very quickly, 200 of you in here, 40 likes. Smash the likes, guys. 100 likes surely before we get off. And I really appreciate everyone's support. Keep turning on those noti bells, as I said, and subscribing. But Sam, as Vindaloo's saying here, as much as I don't want to keep seeing this Arsenal badge, defensive mid should now be the priority, no matter what happens with Morgan Gibbs-White, right? And who's your number 6 pick?
Yeah, look, I mean, I've said it before. I think that one of the biggest flaws I have with Ange, and ultimately it's not just Ange in the last 5-6 years of the club. I feel like our midfield since Dembele left basically has been terrible, and the stats basically back that up. Our away form since we sold Dembele has probably never recovered. I think we went like a year and a half or something stupid without winning away when Dembele left. But so for me, I felt like Ange struggled to coach a midfield, but we did have a lot of lightweight players, and I think that we need someone who's just going to get stuck in, whether that's Palhinha. And every time we played Fulham, as much as it irked me to no ends, he put in 10 yellow card worthy challenges, stopped attacks, and didn't get booked to like the 87th minute every single game. It happened every time. He knows
should have got
how
so
to
many
do
more
that.
reds. Should have got so many more reds. I remember
exactly.
it. Yeah,
Look, he knows how to play that dirty but winning mentality football, and that's something that you mentioned Jose earlier. He said you need to be see you next Tuesdays, right? When he came in, that was like the famous quote, "You're all too nice." So to get someone in with a bit of spite, I think is good. So if we got someone like Palhinha, or as I said, we got Douglas Luiz, I'd be happy with either of those players.
Yeah, 100%. Well, out of the two, who are you going for? Because I personally I think just about Palhinha, because I think he's sort of the more natural, deep lying player out the two. I mean, Douglas Luiz, of course, is a defensive midfield player as well. But I feel like Palhinha, it's almost like what he did for Fulham would be perfect for Tottenham if we're allowing a Morgan Gibbs-White, Maddison to play up and be the two sort of attacking midfielders. Douglas Luiz could probably deal with it on his own, but I think he's better alongside someone. Whereas Palhinha, I feel like he would do a great job solo, number 6. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I prefer Luiz as a player. I think he's more rounded. But as you say, if you're looking for that destroyer that we've been calling for so long, and someone that can play that role, obviously the only problem with Palhinha in that is that he is going to be 30 this year. Yeah. So he's obviously not going to be a long-term replacement. But if you can get him in, and players like Bergbaum, players like Archie Gray are watching this guy just absolutely plow through players. And I watched a I think it was Patrick Bamford talking to Ben Foster about Archie Gray, and he said that he started training under Bielsa or something when he was, or under Jesse Marsch, whoever it was, when he was like 14, and he played a couple pre-season games, and he was just throwing in these really heavy challenges, not just for the sake of it. He was like doing it because he was winning. He needed to make those challenges, but as a 14-year-old, very slight, it looked obviously quite mad. And then he said that they played Villa in a friendly as well, like just before the season started, and he took out Matty Cash, I think. So obviously a lot of Spurs fans will appreciate that little tidbit. And then apparently in the next break of play, John McGinn absolutely smashed him, and he ended up getting injured for pretty much the whole season.
Yeah.
So Bamford was saying, all the players are going over to McGinn like, you've just smashed a 14-year-old, and he was like, but all jokes aside, it was probably the best thing that could have happened for Archie Gray, because he then spent the entirety of that season in the gym. So by the time he came back to the team in the next pre-season, he'd filled out massively, and he was no longer that like 14-year-old boy. He was now like a 16-year-old like young man, right? Starting to fill out a little bit. Obviously, he's still got a ways to go and still looks about 7 years old, Archie Gray. But in terms of his actual stature, he's bigger than you think. He's like 6'2". So
yeah, no, absolutely. Love that story, mate. Good little insight there. If you still finish 16th, you improvement, brilliant. It has to get the last laugh, the Arsenal fans. Guys, I'll be honest, there's not an awful lot more to talk about in terms of Gibbs-White, in terms of, we covered it. If you're just watching now, you're just joining now, do rewind to the start where we give you all the latest on the last, the first 10, 15 minutes of the video. I've got a great little update for you guys. We're actually going to be live with Ben Jacobs of The Athletic on Thursday, which is great news for us. We can't wait to interview Ben Jacobs. So guys, get in the comments below of the offline video if you've got a question for Ben, all things transfer window, all things Morgan Gibbs-White. Maybe we could get a few little exclusives, who knows. So please do get your comments in for that. Like this video because there's only 50 likes. I'd really appreciate 100. Subscribe to SpursRelated if you are new. That would be great. And before you all head off, go and check out Sam's X Twitter, Spurs Undercover. Sam, just a very quick one. I know you've got to go over to the Irish Hotspur. What can people see on your Twitter as well, mate?
Well, kind of a bit of everything, Well, I say everything. Let's just, maybe I've made some good points and I've fooled you. I'm no ITK, right? I'm just a guy who likes football, mostly Premier League football, right? A bit of European football here and there. So it's a lot of just back and forth with people. Sometimes when I'm having a long day at work, it's nothing to do with football, and you can see me getting in random arguments just to like fill the void of boringness. But yeah, other than that, I just try and repost like the big news and just give my talking points on it, just a brief little synopsis. So if you're interested in that sort of stuff, then obviously come through. I put my live videos there sometimes as well that I do with the Irish Hotspur, and now thankfully with SpursRelated. So yeah, come on through.
Get over there, guys. Get over there. And like I said, before you head out, go and follow Sam on Twitter and subscribe to SpursRelated here. Like the video and turn on the notification bells. We'll be live with Ben Jacobs on Thursday and live with Oso Spurs tomorrow evening, a slightly later time, but Ben Jacobs on Thursday at around both later times. So Wednesday and Thursday will be live streams around 7-8 o'clock. So keep your noti bells on so you never miss it. Get your comments in for Ben Jacobs from The Athletic. Subscribe and like. And guys, as always, come on you Spurs. Come on.